Carl Jung warned men. Not all women love the real you. It begins with a glance. She doesn't see you for who you truly are. She sees an idea, a possibility, a shape of a man that exists only in her mind. You can feel it, can't you? That subtle intensity in her eyes. It is not pure admiration. It is a test, a silent measuring of who you are versus who she believes you could become. You think you are being chosen, but you are being cast. You are not seen as yourself, you are seen as a character. And when you fail to fit the role she has written for you in her private script, the curtain falls. Carl Jung understood this with chilling clarity. He warned that relationships are rarely based on reality. They are built on projections. Fantasies one person throws onto another like a mask. Jung spent his life exploring the unconscious mind, the dark depths beneath human awareness. He uncovered what he called the animus and anima, inner masculine and feminine forces that shape how men and women see one another. These forces are not gentle. They are not forgiving. When they remain unexamined, they twist relationships into illusions that feel like love but taste like control. Some women, Jung argued, are not truly loving men. They are loving their projection of a man, the perfect hero they have crafted from childhood dreams, social expectations, and unhealed wounds. And when you fail to live up to that image, you are discarded, not because of who you are, but because of who you are not. Think about this. Have you ever felt like nothing you did was enough? That no matter how much you gave, it was always as if she was comparing you to someone invisible. That invisible man is the projection. He is the ghost you are constantly measured against. You cannot win against him because he doesn't exist. He is a creation of her unconscious mind, and you are just an actor wearing his mask. Jung called this dangerous process a form of possession. When a woman is possessed by her inner animus, she does not love. She judges, she moralizes, she demands. She tries to mold you into an ideal rather than seeing you as a real man with flaws, scars, and depth. And most men fall for it because they are desperate to be seen, desperate to be chosen. But what you feel is not being seen. It is being used to fulfill a fantasy that was never yours to begin with. This is why so many relationships turn cold and bitter. This is why men feel betrayed when the affection fades. It was never you she loved. It was the dream of you. And when the dream collapses, so does the love. Jung believed the only way to escape this trap is through individuation, the brutal process of becoming whole within yourself. You must stop seeking validation from her gaze and start building strength from your own reflection. You must learn to see yourself clearly, to know your own shadow, and to live beyond the need for approval. Men who fail to do this remain slaves to projection. They become masks, bending and twisting themselves to please women who don't even know what they truly want. They mistake compliance for love and wonder why it never lasts. They perform, they adapt, and they slowly erase themselves until there's nothing left but resentment and confusion. You feel this truth, don't you? That nagging sense that you are not living as yourself, but as someone else's expectation. This is not love. This is self. And it ends only when you decide to stand alone. There is a moment in every man's life when he realizes the truth. He looks at her and finally sees the projection, the fantasy mask she has placed over his face. At first it feels like betrayal. It feels like she lied to you. But she didn't lie. She believed her own illusion. She loved the character she built, not the man you are. Carl Jung warned that this dynamic is inevitable when men do not claim their own identity. When you are unsure of who you are, you become a blank canvas for her projections. She paints you as the savior, the hero, the dream man who will fix her life. And for a while you play along because it feels good to be admired, it feels powerful. But that admiration is not real. It is fragile, conditional, and temporary. When you fail to live up to her fantasy, she doesn't see the real you. She sees a failure, a disappointment, a broken image. That's when she withdraws. That's when she criticizes and demands more. You try harder. You work to prove your worth. But you cannot win against a dream. A dream does not bend to reality. Jung described this animus projection as a tyrant. When a woman's inner masculine energy is unbalanced, it becomes harsh and controlling. It drives her to seek perfection, not connection. It turns love into a performance where you are the actor and she is the director. And when you forget that you have your own script, your own soul, you lose everything. The danger is subtle. It doesn't start with hate or cruelty, it starts with approval. She praises you when you act like the man she wants. She withdraws when you don't. Slowly you begin to live for her validation. You stop making choices for yourself, you stop leading. You stop being a man and start being a mirror, reflecting back what she expects. Jung saw this pattern destroy countless men. Men who gave up their power, their voice, their soul just to keep the illusion alive. But illusions always break, and when they do, you are left hollow, wondering who you are without her gaze. To escape this trap, Jung demanded something that most men fear: solitude. You must step back from the stage and stand alone. You must stop being the character and start being the author of your own story. This means facing the parts of yourself you've buried. It means confronting your own weaknesses, insecurities, and shadows. Individuation is not easy. It requires you to stop blaming women for not seeing you and start seeing yourself. It requires you to stop performing and start living. Because here is the truth Jung understood better than anyone. You do not become a man by being chosen. You become a man by choosing yourself. When you claim your own identity, the projections lose power. You are no longer controlled by her approval. You are no longer seduced by the fantasy of being enough for someone else. You stand in your own truth, and that truth cannot be manipulated. But make no mistake, this path is not glamorous. It is lonely, especially at first. When you stop performing, many people will turn away from you. They will call you cold, arrogant, distant. They will say you've changed, but you haven't changed. You've simply stopped playing the role they expected. Jung said that a man who has faced his unconscious is unshakable. He no longer lives for applause or validation. He no longer fears being alone because he has met the deepest parts of himself. And paradoxically, it is only from that place of inner strength that true love can emerge. When you are whole, you don't need her to complete you. You don't need her to define you. You can meet her as an equal, not as a performer desperate to impress. And if she can't handle that truth, she was never yours to begin with. The deeper you walk into this truth, the more you see the pattern everywhere. You notice how men twist themselves into shapes they were never meant to hold. You see men smiling when they want to roar, nodding when they should stand firm, agreeing just to keep the peace. They call it love, but Jung called it when a man bends too far to please, he becomes invisible. Women sense it immediately. What once attracted her, the strength, the mystery, the grounded presence, disappears. The more you try to be perfect in her eyes, the less she feels drawn to you. She begins to pull away, and you, desperate to win her back, give even more of yourself away. It becomes a cycle of quiet destruction. Jung warned that this happens because men fear solitude more than they fear losing themselves. You would rather stay in a performance than face the terror of standing alone. But until you face that fear, you will never be free. A man who depends on someone else's validation is not living. He is acting. Individuation demands that you step off the stage. It demands that you stop waiting for applause and start listening to the voice within. This voice is not loud at first. It is buried under years of conditioning, of trying to please, of trying to be good enough. But once you hear it, you cannot unhear it. It tells you the simple but brutal truth. You are responsible for becoming the man you were meant to be. This responsibility is not comfortable. It is a war within yourself. You will face your shadow, the parts of you you've tried to ignore, the fear, the anger, the weakness. Jung believed that only when a man faces these dark corners of his soul does he become whole. The man who avoids his shadow remains half alive. Easy to manipulate, easy to control. Some women unconsciously exploit this weakness. When they are possessed by their own animus projection, they seek a man they can mold, a man who will bend, who will become whatever shape they demand. At first, they praise him for being good, agreeable, or perfect. But soon, that same compliance becomes the very reason they lose interest. Why? Because the feminine is not drawn to a man who has no spine. It is drawn to a man who is whole, who stands firm, who cannot be swallowed by a projection. When you give all of yourself to win her, you lose the very thing that attracted her in the first place, your independence. The path of individuation flips this dynamic. You no longer chase validation. You no longer try to be the perfect man. You become real. You become a man who knows his boundaries, who can say no, who does not need approval to feel worthy. That kind of man cannot be replaced because he is not playing a role. He is living his truth. Jung said that when a man embraces his true self, he no longer fears rejection. He no longer fears the collapse of illusions, because he does not live for illusions. He lives for reality. And reality, though harder, is always stronger than fantasy. But this transformation comes at a cost. When you become real, people will fear you. They will not understand you because you no longer fit into their neat categories. They will say you have become distant, but in reality you have become untouchable. You see through the games, through the projections, through the illusions. Most men never take this path, because it requires them to die before they die. You must let the false versions of yourself burn. The actor, the pleaser, the obedient shadow. Only when these masks fall away does something real emerge. It is painful, it is lonely, but it is also liberating. Once you have walked this fire, you will never go back. You will no longer be seduced by the promise of being enough for someone else. You will no longer beg to be seen. You will see yourself, and that is all you need. When you stand firm in your true self, the world reacts differently. Women feel it first. They sense that you are no longer performing for their approval. They cannot control you with praise or punish you with silence. At first, this unsettles them. It challenges the projection they once held. But for some, it also awakens a deeper respect, a recognition of your strength. Jung believed that a man who has faced his own unconscious becomes magnetic, not because he is charming or perfect, but because he is real, he is rooted. He does not shift with every wind of opinion, he does not crumble under pressure. He is steady because he knows who he is. And here's the paradox. When you stop needing her validation, you become more attractive than ever. Not because you chase her, but because you don't. You stand still in your truth. and the right woman will see it. She will not try to mold you into an image. She will meet you as you are, without masks, without games. But this kind of connection is rare. Most people are still trapped in projection. They want to fall in love with an idea, not a person. They want someone who plays the role they've written. When you refuse to play, they call you difficult or cold. Yet the truth is that you are simply free. Freedom is not easy to carry. It will make others uncomfortable. They will sense the weight of your presence because you no longer bend to fit their expectations. Jung warned that a man who walks this path will often be misunderstood, even feared. But that fear is a sign that you have broken free from the collective illusion. Some women, especially those possessed by their inner animus, will accuse you of being emotionally unavailable. What they truly mean is that they cannot control you. You are not dancing to their tune. You have stepped off the stage, and now they do not know how to interact with you. Do not take this personally. It is not your job to fulfill a fantasy. It is your job to live as the man you are meant to be. If she cannot handle that, let her go. The right woman will not ask you to perform. She will respect the man who stands before her, flaws and all. Jung often said that modern men suffer not because they are rejected, but because they are willing to betray themselves just to be accepted. You twist yourself into something false, thinking it will bring love. But love built on illusion is no love at all. It is dependency. It is fear. It is a slow death of your soul. The man who chooses the path of individuation does not fear being alone. He knows that solitude is where true strength is forged. In silence, you meet the parts of yourself you have ignored. You face your inner storms. You learn that no one else can save you, and no one else should. When you rise from that solitude, you carry a new kind of power, a quiet power, a grounded presence. You are no longer a puppet dancing on the strings of validation. You have cut those strings and built your own foundation. And from this foundation, real love becomes possible. Not the kind of love built on fantasy, but the kind built on truth. The kind where you do not need to pretend, to perform, or to earn affection. The kind where the whole people meet, not to complete each other, but to walk side by side. Jung believed this was the highest form of relationship, a union not of masks, but of souls. But it only happens when a man is brave enough to face his own shadow and stop living as someone else's dream. When the masks fall, something extraordinary happens. You no longer fear being misunderstood. You no longer fear being alone. You begin to see relationships for what they truly are. Not a stage for performance, not a game of approval, but a mirror. Every woman you meet reflects something within you. Her reaction to you, her love, her rejection, they all point back to the state of your own soul. Carl Jung's darkest warning was simple yet brutal. Men who avoid this inner confrontation will forever live as slaves to projection. They will be chosen not for who they are, but for the role they play in a woman's inner story. And when that story changes, they will be discarded like old characters in a forgotten play. But you do not have to live that way. You can break free. You can stand up and say, I am no one's puppet. I am my own man. It starts with a choice. The choice to stop seeking approval outside yourself. The choice to face the dark corners of your mind, to confront the shadow you've ignored. The choice to burn every false identity and rise from the ashes with a clear, unshakable sense of self. This transformation does not come from reading more books or memorizing strategies. It comes from the raw, painful work of facing your inner truth. Jung called this individuation because it makes you an individual, a complete, undivided being. Most men never even start this journey. They live their whole lives wearing masks, chasing validation, begging to be seen. But the man who dares to walk this path becomes unstoppable. When you become whole, you do not chase women. You do not try to convince anyone of your worth. You simply stand in your truth, and the right people are drawn to you. The wrong ones fall away. You begin to see that true love is not about performance. It is about the whole people meeting as equals. And here's the twist most men never understand. When you no longer need her, that is when she truly sees you. When you stand with your own strength, she feels something deeper than attraction. She feels respect. She sees a man who cannot be broken by approval or rejection. A man who is whole, even when standing alone. But you must earn this strength. It will not be handed to you. It comes only from facing the pain, the fear, and the lies you've told yourself. It comes from looking in the mirror and asking the hardest question of all. Who am I without their love? Jung would say that if you dare to face that question, you will find something far greater than love. You will find freedom. Freedom from projection. Freedom from fear. Freedom from living as someone else's idea of a man. The world will always try to put a mask on you. Women, society, even your own mind will try to shape you into something you are not. But when you know who you are, no mask can hold. No projection can define you. You become untouchable, unshakable, and fully alive. In the end, this is the dark truth Jung wanted you to see. Most men are not rejected by women. They are rejected by themselves. They give away their power, their truth, their identity, hoping to be loved. And in doing so, they lose the very thing that makes them worthy of love. The question is, will you continue to play the role? Will you keep living as a character in someone else's fantasy? Or will you burn the script, Step off the stage and finally become the man you were always meant to be. Because once you do, everything changes. Love changes. Life changes. You stop living for approval and start living for truth. And the world, though it may fear you, will finally respect you.